A 2023 multi-cohort study of 67,126 adults, published in Psychoneuroendocrinology, found that your biological age and your calendar age can be as far as 20 years apart. If you are 60 and feel 80, stiff when you stand, exhausted by noon, aching in places you cannot explain, your body is not just getting older. It is aging faster than it should. And the reason has almost nothing to do with your joints, your muscles, or your genes. It has to do with a system your doctor was barely taught exists. Here is what most people over 55 believe. They believe that feeling old is the natural result of being old, that stiff mornings are normal, that brain fog after lunch is what happens when you hit a certain number, that shrinking energy is just the body winding down on schedule. That belief is wrong. Not partly wrong, fundamentally wrong. In 1993, neuroscientist Bruce McEwen at Rockefeller University introduced a concept called allostatic load. It is not a disease. It is not a diagnosis. It is a measurement, a score calculated from biomarkers across your cardiovascular, metabolic, immune, and neuroendocrine systems that reveals how much cumulative stress your body has absorbed and failed to recover from. Think of it as a running tab. Every night your body does not fully repair, the tab grows. Every week your nervous system stays locked in low-grade alarm, the tab grows. McEwen called it the wear and tear on the body. Not from one event, from thousands of micro-events your brain never fully processed and your tissues never fully resolved. A 2023 analysis across 13 cohort studies and over 40 biomarkers found that allostatic load predicted disease onset more accurately than any single risk factor. More than blood pressure, more than fasting glucose, more than cholesterol. The researchers identified dysregulation across 12 physiological systems, not one or two, but 12, operating simultaneously in people who reported feeling old for their age. So the issue is not that your body is old. The issue is that your body is stuck in a state of incomplete recovery that compounds year after year. But the real question is why this happens, and the answer involves the largest sensory organ in your body, one that most physicians were never taught to consider. Your body contains roughly 250 million nerve endings embedded in a single tissue. Not your skin, not your muscles, your fascia. Robert Schleip, director of the Fascia research group at the Technical University of Munich, has spent over 2 decades studying this network. His research, published in the Journal of Motor Behavior in 2014, established that the body-wide fascial system functions as a sensory organ, one that contains more nerve endings than your skin and up to 1,000% more sensory receptors than your muscles. Here is what that means in plain language. Picture a wetsuit, a full-body wetsuit, made entirely of intelligent fabric. That fabric wraps around every muscle, every organ, every nerve, every blood vessel in your body. It is not padding, it is not filler, it is an information highway. Every time you move your arm, bend your knee, or shift your weight from one foot to the other, millions of sensors in that fabric report back to your brain. They tell your brain where your body is in space, how much force your muscles are generating, and whether your tissues are safe or under threat. This is called proprioception, your body's sense of its own position, and it degrades with age. A 2019 review published in the Journal of Exercise Rehabilitation examined proprioceptive decline in older adults and found that by age 65, mechanoreceptor density in your joints and fascial tissues drops significantly. Your brain gets fewer signals. Fewer signals mean less certainty. Less certainty means your nervous system compensates. It tightens muscles, restricts range of motion, and shifts you into protective mode. That morning stiffness you feel is not damage. It is your nervous system making a defensive decision based on incomplete information. Some researchers dispute the exact magnitude of this decline, and the numbers vary depending on which joint and which type of receptor you measure. But the direction is consistent across the literature. Your body's internal GPS becomes less accurate with every passing decade. Now here is where it connects to feeling 80 at 60. When your fascia loses sensory density, your brain does not just lose spatial awareness. It loses something called interoception, the ability to sense what is happening inside your own body. A 2023 study at the University of Iowa confirmed that interoceptive awareness declines measurably with age. Participants over 60 were significantly worse at detecting their own heartbeat at rest than participants in their 30s. Your brain is literally losing touch with your body. And when your brain cannot accurately read your internal state, it defaults to the safest assumption: something is wrong. That default state has a name. Researchers call it a threat response. And it does not just make you feel old, it makes your body age faster. But this is only half the story. What happens at the cellular level is even more disturbing, and it starts with a word most people have never heard. In 2000, immunologist Claudio Franceschi at the University of Bologna coined a term that has since reshaped how scientists think about aging. He called it inflammaging, a chronic, sterile, low-grade inflammation that builds in your body as you age, independent of any specific infection or injury. It is not the inflammation you feel when you twist an ankle. It is a slow, invisible burn happening in your blood, your gut lining, your fascial tissues, and your brain, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And most people over 55 have no idea it is happening. Think of it this way. Imagine a smoke alarm in your kitchen that goes off at full volume when there is a fire. That is acute inflammation. It is loud, it is useful, and it stops when the threat is gone. Now imagine that same alarm emitting a faint, constant beep, so quiet you stop noticing it, but it never turns off. That is inflammaging. Your immune system is signaling danger at low volume, all the time, and your tissues are responding to that signal by slowly breaking down. Here is what drives it. Your vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in your body, running from your brainstem down through your chest and into your abdomen, is supposed to act as your body's built-in anti-inflammatory brake. When it functions well, it detects inflammation and sends signals that suppress it. Researchers call this the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway. But here is the problem. Vagal tone, the strength and responsiveness of that nerve, declines with age. A study published in Frontiers in Physiology in 2020 found that heart rate variability, the primary non-invasive measure of vagal tone, decreases steadily across the lifespan and is significantly lower in adults over 60. Lower heart rate variability means your vagus nerve is less responsive. Less responsive means your anti-inflammatory brake is weaker. And when that brake fails, inflammaging accelerates, not in one place, but everywhere. Your joints, your brain, your gut, your fascia. If you have ever woken up at 3 a.m. with your legs aching for no reason, or felt your hands stiff and swollen in the morning, even though you did nothing to injure them, this is what is happening inside your body. Your vagus nerve is not suppressing the inflammatory signal, and your tissues are soaking in low-grade inflammation while you sleep. The research is still evolving on the exact tipping point, the age at which vagal tone drops below the threshold of effective regulation. And some scientists believe it varies significantly based on fitness level and chronic stress exposure. But the pattern is clear. Your nervous system's ability to manage its own inflammation weakens over time, and no amount of ibuprofen addresses the root cause. If this is making sense and you want the part about how to actually reverse this, how to retrain your vagus nerve and restore your body's internal signaling, subscribe now. That section is coming in a few minutes, and it changes how you think about your own aging. But none of this matters if you do not understand what your body does with stress, real, accumulated biological stress, between your 40s and your 60s. Because that is where the damage becomes structural. What almost nobody talks about is this. Your body keeps a physical record of every stressful event it failed to fully resolve. Not a memory, a biological residue. And that residue lives in your fascia. In 2025, a study published in Scientific Reports analyzed 12,504 adults using National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey data and found a direct, linear relationship between sedentary behavior and phenotypic age acceleration. Phenotypic age is not your birthday. It is a calculation based on 9 blood biomarkers, including C-reactive protein, albumin, glucose, and white blood cell count, that reveals how old your body actually is on the inside. The study found that adults sitting more than 8 hours per day had 58% higher odds of accelerated biological aging compared to those sitting fewer than 4 hours. BMI mediated about 21% of that effect, but the remaining 79% pointed to mechanisms beyond weight, including chronic inflammation, autonomic dysregulation, and the slow degradation of your fascial system. Here is what that means for you. Every hour you sit, your fascia is not just idle, it is dehydrating. The hyaluronic acid that lubricates your fascial layers, the substance that lets your muscles glide past each other, begins to thicken and aggregate when it is not mechanically stimulated. Research from the Frontiers in Neurology review, published in 2024, describes this process in detail. When hyaluronan is understimulated, it stops acting as a lubricant and starts behaving like glue. Your tissues stick, your movement becomes restricted, your sensory receptors send fewer signals, and your brain interprets the silence as threat. Read that number again. 250 million nerve endings in your fascia alone. More than your eyes, more than your skin. And when those nerve endings go quiet, your brain does not relax. It panics. This is the hidden loop that makes you feel decades older than you are. Sedentary posture dehydrates your fascia. Dehydrated fascia reduces sensory input. Reduced sensory input triggers your nervous system's threat response. The threat response elevates inflammation. Inflammation degrades your tissues further, and the cycle deepens. Depending on who you ask, the timeline varies. Some fascia researchers estimate that meaningful tissue changes can begin within as few as 48 hours of sustained immobility. Others point to weeks or months, but the mechanism is not disputed. Your body was designed for movement, not occasional exercise, but near constant low-level mechanical stimulation. When it does not get that, the system that is supposed to keep you feeling young starts actively making you feel old. So the question becomes, if your body has this built-in sensory network, this 250 million receptor system that regulates inflammation, movement, and internal awareness, how do you wake it back up? Step 1. Fascial hydration through morning movement, not exercise. Within the first 10 minutes of waking, before coffee, before sitting down, spend 3 to 5 minutes doing slow, full-body movements, not stretches, movements. Roll your shoulders in wide circles. Twist your torso gently left and right. Reach your arms overhead and lean to each side. Bend forward and let your arms hang. The goal is not flexibility. The goal is mechanical stimulation of your fascial layers to trigger hyaluronic acid production. Dr. Carla Stecco at the University of Padua, whose 2015 Functional Atlas of the Human Fascial System is considered the definitive anatomical reference on fascia, has demonstrated that gentle mechanical loading stimulates fasciocytes, specialized cells that secrete the lubricant your tissues need to glide. Do this every morning, 5 minutes, non-negotiable. Step 2. Vagal tone training through controlled breathing. Twice per day, once in the morning, once before bed, practice 6 breaths per minute for 5 minutes. That is 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. A 2021 study published in Scientific Reports found that a single session of deep, slow breathing significantly increased high-frequency heart rate variability in older adults, a direct marker of vagal activation. This is not meditation, this is a mechanical intervention. You are physically stimulating your vagus nerve through the pressure changes in your chest cavity. The diaphragm presses against the vagal trunk on every slow exhale. Do this consistently for 4 weeks, and your baseline heart rate variability will begin to shift. Step 3. Break the sitting loop. Every 30 minutes of sitting, stand and move for 2 minutes, not optional. Set a timer. Walk across the room. Do 5 slow squats. March in place. The 2025 NHANES-based study found a near-linear relationship between daily sitting time and biological age acceleration. Every hour beyond 4 hours per day increases your risk. The goal is not to eliminate sitting. It is to interrupt it frequently enough that your fascial tissues stay hydrated and your sensory receptors stay active. Step 4. Cold exposure for vagal activation. At the end of your daily shower, turn the water to cold for 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds. Research from Cedars-Sinai has confirmed that brief cold exposure activates the mammalian dive reflex, which directly stimulates vagal pathways. This is uncomfortable. It is supposed to be. That gasp you feel is your vagus nerve responding. Over time, your tolerance increases and your vagal tone improves. Step 5. Proprioceptive challenge. Once per day, stand on one leg for 30 seconds, then switch. When that becomes easy, close your eyes while doing it. A study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that the inability to stand on one leg for 10 seconds in adults over 50 was associated with nearly double the risk of all-cause mortality over the following decade. This is not a balance exercise, it is a direct input to your proprioceptive system, forcing your brain to recalibrate its internal map of your body. If even one of these steps was new to you, hit like. It tells the algorithm to show this to more people who need this information. Dr. Hélène Langevin, former director of the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health at the NIH, has published extensively on how mechanical stimulation of fascia influences inflammation, pain signaling, and tissue repair. Her work since 2021 has specifically connected fascial mobility to proprioceptive function in older adults. This is not fringe science. This is the direction modern research is moving. Step back for a moment. Think about what you just learned. Your body is not falling apart because of your age. It is falling apart because of a feedback loop, a loop between your fascia, your vagus nerve, your inflammatory system, and your brain that nobody explained to you. Not your doctor, not your physical therapist, not the label on your supplement bottle. You were told stiffness is normal. You were told fatigue is expected. You were told that after 60, things just hurt more, and there is not much you can do about it. And while some degree of change is inevitable, historians of medicine still argue whether aging itself should be classified as a disease or a natural process. The rate at which you feel it is not fixed. It is modifiable. It is, in many ways, a choice made by your daily habits. The 5 steps in this video cost nothing. They require no equipment. They take fewer than 20 minutes total across your entire day, and they target the exact systems: fascial hydration, vagal tone, proprioceptive input, inflammatory regulation, that determine whether your body at 65 feels like 55 or like 80. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What was the one thing in this video you wish you had known 10 years ago? I read every single one. And if you have been sitting through this entire video, this is your sign. Stand up right now. Roll your shoulders. Take one slow breath. That is your nervous system waking back up. Stiffness is not aging, it is silence. Share this with someone who needs it. A spouse, a sibling, a friend who has been told their pain is just part of getting older. It is not. And if you have not subscribed yet, you should. What is coming next week involves your brain's glymphatic system and what happens to it every night between 2 and 4 a.m. I have been researching it for months. Your body is not broken. It has just been waiting for the right signal.